Hi, welcome to Slack Chats. I'm Stuart Winter, the platform architect of the ARM port of Slackware. And I was just about to cut the grass when it occurred to me that I can improve the installer. So in a previous episode you saw that one of the issues was that I wasn't able to get the consoles activated on the local HDMI before you'd made a key map selection in the installer over the serial port. And what I want to do is to have it so that the serial adapter, for all intents and purposes, is optional. I mean, I'm still going to connect a serial adapter to all of mine, and I always recommend that everyone else does that too. But you don't really need to. So it just occurred to me, usually what happens is when I start cutting the grass, because it takes me about half an hour to cut it, I usually start thinking about all of the ideas as I'm mowing the lawn, because there's nothing else to do, is there, when you mow the lawn? Okay, so I've got my vendor t-shirt on, as is the industry standard, and let's go. But I've got to say, actually, it's quite pretty, really, isn't it, with all of the... It's kind of like the meadow. It's a shame to cut it, really, but... I just had a thought. I'd looked at some of the documentation after the previous video, and I know the script I wrote works, but the problem with it was that the kernel interface it was using wasn't present at the time that the script ran. And I ran the script from rc.s. So I thought, how am I going to make that thing keep running until the interface exists, then set the fan revolutions and quit? Because it doesn't need to be complicated. I don't want to overly complicate the installer by adding anything like a fan daemon or anything crazy like that, when I can just echo 50 into the kernel interface. So I thought, how can I deal with that? Back in a minute, I need to do some more grass cutting. But I haven't figured that out. But the other issue was that the consoles weren't being... The local consoles on the HDMI monitor, and the USB keyboard, they were only active, they only become active when the rc.s script completes, 100%. And I looked into BusyBox to see if there was a way of having those local consoles activated before the system initialization script completes, and there isn't. I went through my mind thinking of dirty tricks just now and I couldn't think of anything. So I need to figure out how I can activate those. Yeah. Aha! Right, I reckon, I don't know if this will work, but I studied the rc.s script yesterday, and I was just walking it through in my mind. I think, so basically the problem is like this, is that the problem is that when you boot the machine with the serial adapter, the Linux kernel has to know where to, what's its controlling terminal, basically, what's going to be controlling it and where's the output going to go. And some people, in some documentation I've seen, there's a setting called console that you can supply into the kernel command line interface. And I've seen documentation where people have set it twice. So they've got the console equal to a serial port, and they've got the console equal to a local, the keyboard version of that on the local console. And you can set it all you like, but Linux only picks one of them. So I don't know why people set it twice. It doesn't actually work. So the thing is that what I want to achieve is to have it so that you can put the Slackware AArch64 image, the installer image, onto an SD card and have it so that the serial adapter is optional. I still recommend everyone uses it. I certainly will. I still need the installer to be fully functional using both of these access methods. So what I reckon I can do, because I know that the the problem with the console, activating the local consoles, is purely because they will only become active once rc.s finishes, but rc.s won't finish until you select a key map. And then once you select a key map, it gives you a bogus login where it says Slackware login, but it's just a read statement in shell script. So if I can override or bypass the key map selection in the installer, in the rc.s script, and I think I should be able to bypass that. The thing is that I could hack it and just make it work, right? But what I don't want to change so much in the installer code, because it's just more maintenance for me, it's just more hacking. So if I can work around it, that's what I'll do. So I reckon I need to cut some more grass. Alright, so out of the vendor clothes, back into normal civilian wear. Okay, so I've cut the grass and think I've figured out how to do it. I've just checked some of the documentation for BusyBox, and the fan control should be really easy because I can move that out of rc.s completely. And I thought, what's the easiest way of doing it? Because it doesn't need to be a daemon. It doesn't need, the users don't need to interact with it. They don't need to control the fan speed. I just need to have it run once, set the fan and quit. So the easiest way of doing that is simply to let init handle it. So so inside of init tab, you can tell init to run something just once. And init will only do that once the rc.s script is complete, which is perfectly fine for me. It doesn't matter if it takes 20 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever to run that script. As long as it runs and it works, that's all that matters. So what I think I can do is just have the script sit there. So once rc.s quits, the script will be executed by init, and it can just sit there polling the interface to see if it exists. Once it exists, it can set the speed of the fan and simply quit. So I think that solves the fan problem. It should do. And then the second issue is, how do I remove anything that inhibits the execution flow of rc.s? So in other words, the key map selector and the faux login. The faux login is easy. I can just delete that from the script. The key map thing, I've just checked inside of the installer, and I was right. You can set the key map from the kernel command line interface and bypass that entire section of code. So what I've just done is I've gone into the installer config in Xlinux and just added the kbd equals UK to set it to a key map. And that's just a bypass though. So, because I could probably code the installer and take care of it, but it's just extra work of extra maintenance, and I don't really want to do that. So sometimes workarounds are perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do now is just to sit and code this stuff. It shouldn't take too long because it's quite simple stuff. I just need to move a couple of things around. So I'm going to sit and code this now, and then I can just test it later on today. Okay, so I've written this little script called rc.installerconfig. As you can see, it extracts the device name from the proc interface, and then, as with all of the other code, like in the kernel module loader, I've just copied the stanza from there. And one of the things I noticed about a month ago is that you need to open up a shell on TTY1 on the Rock Pro 64. So I've made that script do that, and then it causes init to re-examine its config file because that TTY1 isn't in there by default. And then is the little bit of code that I've added to control the fan. So it just sits there while the interface doesn't exist, it waits. And once that interface is available, it lowers the fan speed revolution to what I found was the lowest speed that still actually made the fan run, echoes that into the interface, and then it quits. So that's one piece that I've just written. So that I think that will work. I've thought it through and I think it will. Obviously need to test it yet. Okay, so the other piece, the fan piece, I think is going to be solved now. The other piece was, how do I replicate how the installer is on the x86 at the local console when the initial output is being sent to the serial adapter? So I thought, well, the easiest way of doing that is simply to use the shell profile script, right? So what you're looking at here is what's going to be in root's profile script just within the installer. So I'm checking to see what the TTY is. I don't know what the TTY is for the serial console on the installer. It's probably TTY-S2 or TTY-S0, I'm not sure actually. But it definitely won't be TTY 1 to 9 because those are exclusively for the local console. So this script is first of all going to make sure that it's running on one of the local consoles before doing anything else. And then, if there's no flag set, it's going to offer you, well basically I copied the code out of rc.s to offer you to select a key map. And then if you press 1, it offers you the key map selector, and then it sets a flag. It dumps out to the screen the content of etc issue and etc motd, which is exactly what rc.s does. So you'll have this option on the local consoles, I hope. I thought as well, when you open up another local console, you don't want to be offered the key map selector again. So that's why there's a flag here. The key map works across all consoles. You know, you really do only need to do it once. So yeah, I hope that works. I haven't tested it at all, but I think it probably does. Alright, so now I just need to rebuild the installer, which will take a couple of minutes, and then I can test it. And I actually had a thought. So I can bring Mutley out of retirement for a few minutes, because even though I can't do a full installation of Slackware on it, it really doesn't get very far, does it? What I can do, it's still useful for booting the installer and testing it. So even though I've still only now got 2 fully functioning Rock Pro 64s, the other one's arriving tomorrow apparently, but I can still use it to boot the installer and just test this stuff really easily without having to shut the other ones down that are currently building packages and stuff. So I'm just going to rebuild the installer and then I can go and test it. Okay, so I have reconnected Mutley with just a USB keyboard, an HDMI monitor, and well, I've got network as well, although actually I don't need that, thinking about it. Oh, I've still got the serial adapter on there as well, but let's unplug that because I want to. So there's the serial adapter. That's all disconnected now. So oh, there's a cactus there. Put that there. Okay, so I want to do this with just the HDMI monitor to see how well that works. So I'm going to plug it in and let's have a look. So I've just put the new installer image onto the micro SD card and I've booted Mutley. So let's see what happens. So at the moment we can't see anything on the screen. So without the serial adapter, you don't get that initial output to know, to give you any visibility or idea about what's happening on the system. So let's see what happens. Oh, okay, so the installer's lit up. I didn't hear the fan yet though. Oh, the fan has started. Okay, so that's on full speed at the moment, the fan. By default, the installer is configured to request an IP via DHCP over the network. So that takes a few moments for it to time out. It might be doing, I guess it's doing that at the moment, but I don't have a network cable plugged in, so it's going to have to just time out. Let's see what happens here. Aha! The fan has automatically turned itself off. Okay, so you can see as well that the console has been automatically activated. Now this console here, as you can see, this is TTY1. Okay, so it's dev/TTY1. And this is where the kernel output's going to be. Now you can press enter and activate a console here. What I'm going to recommend you do is actually switch to another one. So if I press Alt and F2, there we go, you get a different, we'll press, okay, so, and there we go, look at that. It works! Huh! Right, so I have the option to pick a key map. Let's pick a key map. Let's pick the UK one. Okay. And there you go. It's a little bit blurry on the screen, on the image I can see. But you can see that hopefully you can see that it's the standard messages. And then if we open up another console, so let's do Alt and F3, for example. Okay, you press Enter. And there you get it. Again, that's perfect. But this time it doesn't ask you to select a key map, right? So, yeah. Hey, that actually seems to work. And the fan, I don't know if you can see it, but the fan is still spinning. It's very slow, at a very low number of revolutions, but it is spinning. So, I think that works. Yeah, so I think that works. So, cool. I'll see you in the next video.